Hey everyone, this is Khara Croswaite Brindle. Welcome back to another video. I have an amazing special guest with us today. This is Kathy Wilson, colleague, friend of mine. She has a lot of awesome specialties, but the one we're here to talk about today is survivors of scams and how she supports them emotionally. Because if you know anyone who's actually talked forthcomingly about being scammed, it is very emotional. And Kathy has a lot of resources for folks that have been through this. So Kathy, so excited to talk to you about this and how it applies to financial therapy and just overall mental health for folks. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited that we were able to have this conversation and talk about how there's some crossover between what we're doing here, me working with scams and your financial therapy.
So for viewers, this is something I'm still learning. So I'm really grateful to Kathy and the resources she's providing on everything we need to know about scams. So in this particular video, we're going to talk about three things. The first of which is how do we prevent a scam from happening? Valuable information. This kind of shocking factor that Kathy's going to talk about in depth, which is anyone can be scammed. Newsflash, any of us can be scammed. And then what can we do in the aftermath of the scams? How can we support ourselves or folks that are going through this or have gone through it to make sure that we're not doing more harm? So I think that's a factor in Kathy's videos that I've watched in her courses. So if we want to jump in on the preventable side, that might be a good place to start. What do you think, Kathy?
That sounds great. Thank you for that. So, as far as prevention goes, one of the most important things you can do is keep yourself informed about different scams. One thing to always keep in mind is that unfortunately, they are very good at what they do. They are also always changing it up a little bit to where there's new kinds of scams appearing all the time. I work with this enough that I should be up and know about all the most current scams, and I get surprised every week by something new. So staying up to date or staying on alert for what new scams are coming out, as if it's a movie, right? And that's important for each of us to do. And another is to know the risk factors that are signs, the signs of this is potentially a scam. One of those things is this request or offer unsolicited? So you weren't looking for whatever this person has to offer, then that it's a little bit suspicious, right?
Sure. Out of the blue.
And another one is if it's very emotional, and that may be good or bad. So if it's a call to say, you won the sweepstakes, or, whatever award or thing that you supposedly won, and then they want money, that's a warning sign right there that there's something up. And another, this is, a lot of us know about this, but if they want payment in gift cards, watch out. This is probably a scam if that's the case. So keeping yourself up to date on these kind of things is always going to help prevent something from happening.
Sure. So
Yeah.
as people are thinking about this, is there a particular place you want them to go to learn about the up and coming scams? Because as you alluded to, it might be like every week there's something new. Is your website a resource? Are there other ones you want people to know about?
I will send a link to you so we can add it to the end of this video.
Perfect.
And I need to send the link. I can't think off the top of my head which organization that is. So,
Got it. No worries. So
right,
we have a link, viewers. Don't panic. I'm like, you don't have to like go sleeping through Google or Reddit or somewhere to find out about the scams.
right,
We have a place
right,
that has them organized. Thank you, Kathy.
right. And speaking of Reddit, there is a subreddit called Scams, just the
Oh,
word scams. And you can get a lot of information there about scams that are long term. They've been around for a long time, plus some new ones. And
yeah.
it's really a very informative subreddit.
Thank you. I imagine it is and quite interesting for folks to read. For folks who are like, I just want to have some examples of scams, do you have some typical examples you want to throw out here in this video that they could be thinking about or looking out for?
Sure. Sure. So one I'm going to say is high on my list is the kind of scam that's very emotional for people. And so I want to say that it's called the grandparent scam, and it could be called the grandchild scam. But essentially, person that is a grandparent gets a call and they hear your grandson is in the hospital or in jail and we need bail, right? But something, it's this, and they often will spoof, or that's not the right word, but they'll make it look like it's coming from the grandson's phone as well. And so anything like that, always call back or call someone else that can verify. Because a lot of times when people have done that, they say, now he's sitting right here with me. Right.
Yeah. Like,
And
he's not in jail. He's right here.
right.
Oh.
And so that's a good way. And speaking of calling back or making a call to see if it's a scammer, if you suspect it and they won't give you, you can say, hey, can I call you back? I want to, check with your company and make sure this is legit. Or say, you could just say, I need to drop off the phone for a minute. Give me your number and I'll call you back. And if they try anything they can think of to not give you a phone number, that is definitely a warning sign as well.
That avoidance.
Right. And there's romance scams, of course. And people are getting more and more knowledge about how romance scams look. And at the same time, there's still a lot of us that don't realize all the tactics that they have to take advantage of a person. And so we get disarmed a little bit sometimes when this person knows things about us and they use those in subtle ways in conversation. Then we start to feel like they're more likable. We start to feel like they're more relatable because they're using these things in subtle ways. So watching out for that is another good thing to do.
Well, and I feel like what I've learned from people who have disclosed they've been in a scam that was romantic in nature is it's kind of a long game, in a sense of it might take weeks or months to build up that kind of ask of, hey, I want to borrow money, or I can't get to you, or I need help, and pulling on those heartstrings, if you will, versus the grandchild scheme, which actually has happened to one of my family members, where they got a call and said my spouse was in jail, and I wish they had called me as the spouse, being like, hey, is your husband in jail? No, he's not. He's, like you said, right next to me.
He's sitting right here. Yeah.
And so I share that in full transparency for our viewers who are like, like, this is happening close to home for all of us. And I think this segues nicely into this second piece that you wanted to talk about, which is that anyone can be scammed, right? This is why we're talking about this, is so that we reduce that likelihood.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure you have lots of ideas about what people need to know about this.
I do. Because it's such a big risk factor for a person. If I believe that I can't be fooled by those scammers, like, I don't know what's going on with other people. I don't know if they're dumb or whatever, but that's not going to happen to me, because I would not be fooled by this or this or this, whatever we're talking about. And in actuality, in the right circumstances, anyone could be scammed. And so, for instance, like, the best example is one of the vulnerabilities that a person might have is they're sleep deprived. They might be a nurse and just got off shift. It could be any number of professions like that, where you work long hours or you have to sleep during the day, and that's tough for you because you work at night. And so in those, if a scammer calls you or contacts you in that moment when you're very sleep deprived, you're at risk. You're not going to catch things like you normally would. And that's one of the things that scammers take advantage of. And then they create circumstances too, like the grandparent scam. That's a created circumstance that upsets you, and you're off balance a little bit in that, and that makes you vulnerable. So I firmly believe any single person can be scammed if the circumstances are right. Right?
Mm.
Right is not a great word to use, but if everything lines up, then yes, you could be scammed too.
Yeah. Well,
So,
as you already alluded to, they've gotten so creative in how they make us feel truthful or like it's real because they
right.
might have a voice recording of a person that makes it sound like, did I just hear my grandson on the phone or something like that? The fact that
Yep.
they can make it look like they're calling from their phone, like so many different things that would make us need to stay on high alert just to be like, okay, it's not as it
Mhm.
seems. Like take a
Right.
deeper look before moving to
Absolutely.
action.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that I think the knowledge that I could be scammed, and any person saying that to themselves, that reduces your risk all by itself. And there's a thing. So this is kind of explaining part of why that people do develop that belief is there's a bias that is one of the ways our brain works that's not always helpful. And it's called attribution bias. And what that essentially means is if a harmful thing happens to a person, if it happens to someone else, then I'm going to tend to look for reasons that have to do with that person that are the reason why it happened. But if it happens to me, I'm going to look for external reasons why that happened. And this is
Wow.
just a tendency in our brains, but it's part of why we're at risk because it develops this belief that, I'm not going to be fooled by that.
Yeah, like it's not going to affect me. I'm untouchable. This excludes me. I'm not part of that. I'm the
Absolutely.
exception. Hmm.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I know that you go into a lot of this in detail in your online course, which I'm going to plug right here in this video to say, hey, like if
Yeah.
this is getting our viewers really thinking about all the factors to pay attention to, you've done a
Right.
lot of work and you've written a book on this subject of the emotional impact, emotional effects.
Yep.
So I guess that last bucket is what can people do if they've experienced a scam? So we might have viewers who are like, yep, that's me. I'm part of this community, unfortunately, that has
Right.
had to go through this horrible experience. So what
Right.
comes next?
Okay. So what comes next? It's a little complicated. It depends on the person and the nature of the scam, but knowing that nearly everyone that this happens to, they end up feeling a tremendous amount of shame. So being scammed is it's one of the things that society tends to victim blame about, which is also part of that belief that I can't be scammed. I'm going to blame the victim. So that shame, it makes us withdraw completely. We don't want to tell anyone that this happened. We are struggling ourselves in many emotional areas. This brings on grief. It brings on depression, brings up anger as well. And so each of these emotions is extremely difficult. The most important piece is to find a person that's going to be supportive, if that's possible. So you need to be careful in choosing who that person is. And you might even need to prepare the person and say something along the lines of, the last thing I need to hear right now is that I shouldn't have fallen for this. I just need you to listen and help me through all that I'm dealing with now.
Mhm.
And then that supportive person is hopefully prepared to not use the dreaded 6 words. How could you fall for that? Right?
Yeah, not helpful.
That's,
Mm-mm.
yeah, that's never a good thing to say to someone who has been scammed. And so that prepares them to not say that and to be there and just listen and help you take action in the next step. So the first is there's a lot of emotion, and that's normal, not fun, but normal.
Yeah.
And then your next steps are probably going to be something about something you can control. So there's we feel a lot of pain over, I should have done this, I should have done that. We wish we could change the past, and we can't do anything about that. Nothing. And so looking forward and saying to yourself, okay, what can I do right now? Taking some action actually helps. So if that means reporting it, great. That means whatever it means, right? Then take that action, because it's probably going to help you through this process. And then, of course, like, one of the reasons I reached out to you about this, having this conversation, is financial therapy could help. And I would love to hear thoughts you have on that. And I have thoughts on that. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
How about you go first? Because I know that you had this vision of talking and collaborating. So I'm curious
Yeah.
to see what your thoughts are.
So I've watched a couple of your videos that you have on your YouTube channel, and one of the things that struck me is talking about a person's relationship with money, which develops out of multiple factors, right?
Right.
Right. And so looking at your relationship with money with a professional that can help you through that process is going to be tremendously helpful. That is going to be huge. And it's the part of why that really came together for me is hearing a person say that the attitude about money in her family is more about, it's more taboo than anything else. It's just not comfortable for anyone to talk about. And that is making recovery more difficult for her after being scammed, because she feels like, I can't talk to anyone in my family about this. I don't think any of them are going to be supportive. And then it just enhances the shame associated with that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Similar thoughts of like shame. Shame is a big part of that relationship and financial
mhm,
therapy. And so
yeah,
I know you've watched that in the videos where we talk about it's supposed to be a place of zero judgment and a safe space for people to do this work, especially if their family isn't able to hold that for them, as you've named.
yes. Yeah.
But I also think about like that long lasting belief of like your client saying this is taboo, I can't talk about it. Does that reinforce some behaviors around her money that
Mhm,
would be problematic or hurtful to her because she's never really able to like take it out of the closet or lift up the rug
right.
and say, here's that thing that happened to me, that scam that happened that has shaped how
Right.
I see money now of is money evil? Is money helpful? Is money a problem because people
Mhm,
want it? Like all these different beliefs that come into the financial therapy space. It'd be powerful
right.
work for sure.
Absolutely. And if there's a piece to that that is helping the person emotionally deal with, okay, what plan do I need to have in place now for this financial loss and how I recover from it financially? There's the emotional side, there's the financial side.
Right.
And so working with someone in developing what plan works for me and then implementing that, again, it's a thing you can control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking those actions. And so
Yeah,
those were the couple of things I was thinking would be fantastic for someone who experienced this in helping themselves move forward.
absolutely. I really agree because I know we talked about this offline, but like I could see the application of the trainings and offerings you've created for the mental health financial therapist side to
Mhm.
hold space for clients around this issue of like, have you been scammed? How do we help you recover? How do we address that shame? And if they have
Absolutely.
this as part of their training, can
Mhm.
they, reduce the likelihood of having that 6 word phrase that we shouldn't say or anything
Right?
else that would be more harmful than helpful? Because we all have our
Yes.
own stuff around money as humans.
Mhm.
And then as professionals, how can we hold neutrality for those clients that are really going through a lot and coming from a scam or
Mhm.
being in that experience? So, yeah,
Right.
I think I can't speak to the whole financial therapy community, but I absolutely see how this could be a
Mhm.
population that we could support in addition to all the things you have going on, Kathy. So, do you want to tell our viewers about where they can find more on the fact that you've done a lot of this work and you're a specialist in this area? So, I want to highlight where they can learn more.
Great. So one thing is that you can access all of of the resources that I have and have created through a certain website, special website that I created for it, which is essentially scamsurvivorhealing.com. And I'll send you the link so we can put it in the description of the video. But
Definitely.
and from there, you can reach my YouTube series that is, of course, it's on YouTube, so it's free. And that series is for people who have survived a scam and for them to start walking this process of how they recover. And then it also has links, the website has links to 3 courses that I've created, actually 4 that I've created. So one of those is for mental health professionals. Another is for friends and family. So if you're someone and a family member or a friend of yours, this has happened to them, and you want to figure out how to support them best, then that's the place to go to learn about that. It's tailored for you for that. And in particular, if you have a family member that you know is involved with a scam, but they don't want to see it, oh my goodness, this is the course for you, because that piece all by itself is so difficult for families.
Right.
And all that, I could talk for a while about that.
That's like another video. Yeah.
It could be. And then there's another one that's designed for like victim advocates, law enforcement, people in bank fraud departments, those kind of roles where you might be supporting someone. And then the final one is I took the section about how anyone can be scammed. I took that section out of the course and made it a separate course, because that topic all by itself might be what's the only thing that's interesting to someone.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I imagine, I mean, this is why we're talking about it, because people might be like, I need to know more of those things that make me more susceptible that anyone can be scammed. What are those warning signs? So I will happily put all these links below our video today so that folks can access those and learn more. I know you've also written a book, so I want to plug that because you didn't mention your book, but there's also a book, yes.
Yep, I sure did. And it's available on Amazon, and we'll do a link for that too.
Lots of links.
And it's also available through that website, scamsurvivorhealing.com.
I love that website name. Yeah, because that's what we're talking about here is how do we heal if we can normalize that this is happening and it continues to happen. How do we create the safe space for people to own that and do the work of healing? So I can absolutely see where financial therapy can support this process. And I really just want to thank you for spearheading some of these conversations in the community at large and with the support persons, whether that's the bank fraud department, police, or family, to say, how can we do this and do this well for people who are going through it? So thank you so much, Kathy, for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it very much. This has been a great conversation.
I'm excited that we'll probably have more conversations coming just from all the material we covered. So viewers, stay tuned for more videos. We'll see you next time.